I guess the seed of the idea, if I'm going to just be perfectly honest, was kind of like, get busy living or get busy dying.
Welcome to Late Bloomer Living, the podcast where we're all about shaking up our ideas about what it means to grow older. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your resident age agitator and play instigator. Around here, we believe midlife is the perfect time to play, to reinvent, and bloom like you mean it. Let's go. One of my favorite lines from a book ever is, "Not all who wander are lost." Tolkien from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, one of them, I'm not sure which, but I love that quote. And yeah, it's going to come into play today. Hello, it's Yvonne Marchese on my summer break, taking time to rest and reset. And I'm getting so excited for season 6 of Late Bloomer Living, which is coming back on September 10th. While I'm away, I did not want to leave you hanging, so I am bringing back a few of my favorite episodes, and this one is extra special. My friend Lynn McNutt has actually been on the podcast twice, and her story is so rich and real that I knew it deserved another listen. Lynn is a longtime professional actress and singer, but like so many of us, her path took some unexpected turns in midlife. And she spent several years caregiving for family members, which shook up all kinds of stuff. And this conversation with her is honest and creative and deeply human. It's a beautiful reminder that the creative spark never really leaves us, even if we have to go wandering to find it again. Okay, without further ado, here's Lynn McNutt. Let's go. Lynnie, thank you for being here with me today.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited. It's a long time coming, I will say, because I have wanted you to be on my podcast for a very, very long time.
Oh, well, I've wanted to do it. I love listening to them. They're my favorite, long road trip thing, because for some reason I can't do I'm going to work in the morning, so I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'm more of a binge. We got the binge TV shows. I'm like a binge podcast person. If I'm in the road for 5 hours, I'll listen to 5 hours of podcasts and get all very inspired. And then by the time I get out of the car, I'm like, why am I on this trip? I need to do something else with my life. All these podcasts told me so, because I've had 5 hours of it.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's hilarious. So Miss Lynn, I always like to say how I met people. And I mean, we've known each other a long time now. We met in 2003 and John had just gone, and you had just gone back to get your MFAs at the Academy of Classical Acting, part of the Shakespeare Theatre, George Washington University. And just for folks listening, it was this intense 1-year MFA program that.
Yeah.
And so when John and I moved down there, we got this tiny little, very cute apartment that was
It was so cute.
And it was the 1-bedroom, and that was the baby's room. And then John and I, we left most of our furniture in Connecticut.
We had the bed in the living room.
The big queen size bed in the little living room with the fireplace.
All hang out on when we came to visit.
Right. And then my desk, because I was working part-time. And that was it. That was the furniture. Right. And then and then I remember John calling me that first night and saying, everybody wanted to go out for drinks. And I told him I kind of need to come home and see my wife and kid. And well, they're all coming over. I hope that's okay. It's all right. And so.
Yeah, but man, once Spencer fell asleep though.
Yeah. It was our Friday night tradition. Yeah, man.
We could just party around him. And
we did.
And we did get the guitars out and the kumbaya going. And you guys were learning how to play guitar, but at the time I think you only knew really well country roads or something.
something country. I don't know what.
could all harmonize to it because it's easy to harmonize to. So we would like jam out on John Denver's Country Roads.
Hilarious. I mean, how many, there was what, like 12 to 15 of us like jammed into that little apartment?
Yeah.
I mean, man. And so that was the beginning of a long, beautiful friendship.
Yes. I will never forget our Easters.
Yeah.
And speaking of Easter, you guys ate a lot of eggs because you had 3 mouths. You know, I was just me, but you had like a whole family, and eggs are cheap, you know? And so you'd invite me over for dinner and you'd be like, we're having omelets again.
Oh my gosh. That was a fun time. And so you were like 35 when you did that, right? We were just kind of going over all this.
Yeah. I was 35 when we like graduated, and it was a year program, but it was almost like a year and a half because technically we had that extra semester to do our thesis, like our paper that we had to do for it. But like we were in classes and or rehearsals and performances for like 12 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was intense because we would start, because it wasn't, you know, I teach in an MFA graduate acting program now, and it's very different. The program that John and I were in was not geared towards teaching at all. It was geared towards just training and getting back out there. Yeah. And we would start at like 8:30 and we would end at like 7. Yeah, it was intense, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah. So that program, besides being designed for sending you, you know, getting you ready for performance and sending you back out into the world, it was really designed for mid-career professionals to come back and do that. So that, because usually an MFA is what, 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, they used to be 3 years. Now more and more you're seeing them as 2.
And so this was like 1 year with that extra time. But and then so you could stop your career for a year and then hit the boards again, right? So after we finished, since this is, you know, about midlife reinvention, I'm going to jump forward a wee bit. Well, I'm torn between asking you 2 different things. So last year, one of the things that got me really excited to talk to you was that last Christmassy, right? You did how long on the Florida Trail by yourself? You hiked for how long by yourself?
It was just a little over 3 weeks.
Wow.
Which, you know, it's so funny. And I feel like that's not that big of a deal. I mean, so here's the thing, you know, if you're in the hiking world, the backpacking world, doing 3 weeks is nothing, you know. But I started the Florida Trail right after my father died, and I did 3 months actually. Well, 3 months, usually, you know, if you're a major hiker, you can finish the trail in 3 months. I actually had to take 2 weeks out of that because in the middle of it, when I got, before I'd left, I had sent out all these resumes and things for teaching positions because I was still taking care of my mother and I still needed to stay in like a half-day drive from her. So I had sent out all of these applications. And then you do the hike in the fall, and then you do the hike like in the winter months in Florida, because that's when it's drier, cooler, less bugs. And I was like, I don't know, about a month and a half into my hike, and I got this call saying that, you know, we want to have a phone interview with you. And I was like, you know, wonderful, you know, let's, you know, set that up. But here I am, I'm literally like on a trail in the middle of like the Everglades. And I'm like, I got to find cell phone service, like I'm going to be on a professional, call, and I need to make sure that I'm not standing in the middle of a swamp on the call. So I pulled off into the great metropolis of, Okeechobee. So it's the little town that is like, if you could put a north point on Lake Okeechobee, which, boys and girls, is the largest inland freshwater lake. And it's in Florida. Yeah. But I stopped off there, and it's a very rustic, town. And they have this hotel called the Flamingo Hotel. And the flamingo is like barely pink anymore because it's so old and faded and whatever. But I got in there and I, I was backpacking. So I just immediately got in the shower and I got all my clothes off and I put everything in the sink with like 3 bottles of little miniature shampoos. And I was doing a whole bunch of sink laundry. And then I had my tent and my rain tarp, like everything was like all spread out in the hotel room to like air out and dry. And, I was kind of doing like a refresh kind of thing. But meanwhile, I had this like call, and my clothes that I had washed, were not dry. And so I was completely naked, and I'm sitting in bed with the sheet wrapped around me. Why I had the sheet wrapped around me for modesty, I don't know, because this was before Zoom. And I'm sitting there completely naked, but clean, doing this interview for this to be a professor at this university. And then one of the questions, and and if you're auditioning for interviewing for like a national search, tenure track job, there's a list of questions they have to ask everybody. So it's standard, right? So everybody gets asked the exact same question. Mm-hmm. One of the questions they asked me was, why do you want to leave where you are to come here? And I was like, do you know where I am? Like, I'm naked, Mingo Hotel, Okeechobee, Florida. Oh my God. I didn't tell them the naked part, but I did tell them that I was hiking and then they thought that was funny, It took me several years before I actually told them that I was naked, on which they've never let me live down. But yeah. So that was the first. So anyway, so like I said, it took 3 months.
I'm gonna back up. So okay. So your dad passed away. What year? How old were you when your dad passed away?
I was like 40. Oh my goodness.
Early 40s, right? Because it's been a while.
Early 40s. Yeah.
Had you been doing a lot of backpacking before this trip?
No.
And then did you go by yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is where I just have to say it's kind of a big deal then. I'm just gonna say
awesome.
Kind of a big deal.
Feel like, because people are like, I did the whole thing, and what so I'm doing what they call section hiking. Uh-huh. You'll hike like, for a month, and then you'll come back and you'll hike for 2 weeks, and you'll finish a trail, but you do it in sections. Just because it's difficult for people that have jobs to take a year off to just hike, Right. I mean, there are people that do it, and God love them. I mean, that's awesome. I just was not in a position to do that,
What inspired you? Like so you weren't a big backpacker at the time. What was the drive to go out by yourself and do this?
Well, I don't know. There's all sorts of reasons why people like to backpack. And there's a lot more solo backpackers than there are couples and groups.
Really?
You might meet up with people on the trail and be like, hey, let's hike this next 5 miles together, or let's hike the next 3 days together, Mm-hmm. But there's something about the solitude that is really valuable. Yeah, I just, I had gone through, so, my niece had died, And my niece and I were very close. I mean, we were only like 10 years apart. And
she's like a sister to you, basically.
Yeah,
right?
she was my baby sister, and she'd passed away at a really young age from brain cancer. And I went through that whole caregiving process with her because I lived with she and her husband and their daughter, who at the time was only like 18 months old when she was first diagnosed with the brain cancer. It was a glioblastoma. And she was 27, and so I helped, take care of her and, raise her daughter. And then, my dad had, he was so pissed. He was the fittest man. I mean, just so fit, 80 years old, mowing his own yard, chopping his own wood, and then he got, I'm not exactly sure the name, but I call it leukemia light, like where he stopped making his own blood kind of thing. And so he slowly kind of went downhill. And so, I was there for him. And then my mom and I had just hit a point, and at one point, because I'd come down to Florida after, like about 3 years after grad school, because everything just started hitting the fan. It was my mom, then it was my niece, and then it was my dad, then it was my mom again, then it was my niece, and then it was, so it was just sort of back and forth. And I'm very fortunate that I have had family that I loved dearly and wanted to take care of them. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it was a burden. Yes, it was a huge toll on my life. Like, I'm still not actually recovered in a way from the trauma of caregiving, which is intense. You're just taking care of one person, but I had, I was juggling 3 at one time.
Wow.
And it took its toll. But then at the other hand, I think, God, how blessed and lucky am I that I have family that I want to be there with. Like, I want to be there with them and take care of them because they were amazing. But that said, it just took its toll. And I needed, I've since read up about this, but I just needed to walk. I just needed to put one foot in front of the other. And one of the things when you're backpacking is, yes, your mind will stray and can daydream and stuff like that, but it's so immediate that there is nothing else to think about. Like, when you're caregiving, you are multitasking on a phenomenal level. And to go backpacking, the only thing you're doing is putting one foot in front of the other. And it's like a walking meditation, basically. I had also, everybody says, well, did you do it to lose weight? And I'm like, no, I didn't. That was a wonderful side effect, but I just needed to walk and breathe. And I wanted to be myself, I mean, the only time when you're backpacking, the only time you really miss people is at the very end of the day, when you're like, what did you see? I don't know. What did you see? What did you see? To share kind of the day and like what you saw, but like during the day, I mean, you just want to just be by yourself, and just breathe and be able to take your time or go fast, like depending on where you are kind of at that moment. And but the trouble is that my mother was still in a nursing home at the time. And I knew, because I was unemployed during this like brief stretch of time, I knew that was kind of a gift. I was like, this is not going to come around again. And it's given me this chunk of time, but I still had my mother, in a nursing home. And I would go see my mother like, 4 or 5 times a week, just even if it was just for 20 minutes, I would go see her, And, but she was on an upswing, which is good. Her health had gotten actually better from going into the nursing home because she was resting, she wasn't taking care of my dad anymore. She was actually resting and getting some strength back. So the Florida Times-Union, which is the major paper in Jacksonville, Florida, they had started a new section, the outdoor section. So I had reached out to them and said, hey, I'm going to go do this thing, and I'd love to write about it. And they were like, great. I mean, I guess they were just so hungry, because it was basically somebody that's like for free going, I'm going to send you all this stuff that you don't have to pay anybody to publish. So once a week, I sent them pictures and I sent them like a journal entry in a way, but I sent them an article, right?
I didn't know this, Lynn. Wow.
How you didn't? I thought you did.
No.
Well, anyway, but one of the reasons why I did that is because my mother, I love to write, so yes, I would have written anyway, but the impetus to put it in the paper is because, my mother's was an old person and gets a paper, and instead of getting her news, online. And this was like every week she got the article with the pictures. And I was always, of this section, of the outdoor section, I was always the front page. Right. And
so awesome.
Yeah. And they had a little map of Florida where they would like track me. And so she could follow me and then she could have bragging rights. She could, my daughter, it was a conversation thing.
Yeah.
For her.
And so since you weren't there to visit with her, this was like your touchstone. That's amazing.
And I would mention her a lot of times in the article, you know what I mean? Like I'd sort of mention, well, my mother would kill me if I, yeah, it was a journey. That's a whole other podcast, that hike, but,
how did you prepare? So what was the seed of the idea?
Well, I guess the seed of the idea, if I'm going to just be perfectly honest, was kind of like, get busy living or get busy dying. I had hit a really, really low place. And everybody says when you're caregiving and stuff, you have to take care of yourself. And I understand that, and it's totally meant in the best, of intentions. But when you're in the thick of it and it's just you, there is nobody else. There's no first cousins, there's no siblings, there's no, and my parents' church, which has always been a big support, in that church family that they'd been part of for a long time, but it was a much older church that was in a way kind of fading out. So all of its members were in the same shape as my parents. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't really, help very much other than, they'd send her cards and, things like that. But for them to go visit my mother, I'd have to go pick them up. You hit that point of I'm either going to die, like not because I'm going to kill myself, but just from exhaustion and heartbreak in a way, or I'm going to have a massive nervous breakdown, which nobody's going to be able to come and like take care of me because I'm it, So it was my therapy, it was my way of meditating in therapy and getting back to myself, getting back to priorities and being uber present with other things, like for so long, you're just paying attention to like, just the tree and not the forest. And so this gives you a chance to really like look at the scope of things and look at the forest and be enriched by, nature does it to everybody. You've got to be the biggest cynic in the world to say that nature isn't healing. And even if a cynic said that, I would call them a liar. They just wouldn't want to admit it, So it's so healing, and so it was,
how did you prep for it? Like, what were the first few weeks like when you find yourself out there alone and it's got to be a physical challenge to have that big, heavy pack on.
It was serious trial by fire because, I trained some, luckily, people are like, oh, well, Florida's flat, so it's easy. And it's like, Yeah, but the first 5 days are in the Everglades. Like you're literally up to your knees, or the deepest it ever got was like mid thigh. But you're like up to your knees, like slogging through the Everglades.
Oh my gosh.
Which is really hard. Like if you go a mile in an hour, you're making really good time.
Wow.
Oh, and I sprained my ankle like the very first day. That was, oh my God, it was horrible.
And you kept going. Okay.
Yeah,
I would have been like, okay, done. I'm out.
Well, and I still I'm looking at like my ankle still today has got like broken blood vessels like all around it because it was one of those things that I had to do it. It wasn't I really want to do this. It was, I had to do it. Yeah. And I knew if I turned around and went back, I wouldn't have done it. It would have been over because everybody would have looked at my ankle and had gone, you're done, But, the universe provides. I mean, like literally walking, maybe I was just, my foot went into a sinkhole. It kind of turned over. I heard a snap, which made me queasy. So I literally and also here's the thing, there's like no place to sit. So I just sat in the mud. I sat on some like grass on the mud and started trying to think and started to breathe because I was like, I don't want to pass out. And then coming up, all of a sudden I felt like this dog, and it was this giant pit bull named Duke, who was probably the sweetest dog I have ever encountered. And this dog just kept licking me, like to heal me, right? Just kept licking me and licking me. And then pretty soon Duke's owners came up and they're like, oh my gosh, we are so sorry. We didn't know anybody was in front of us. If we had, we wouldn't have let him off the leash for a second. And the female half of this couple was a physical therapist. And she just happened to have like all this. I mean, I had duct tape, but she also had like some of that stretchy tape stuff. Mm-hmm. So she stretchy taped my ankle and then duct taped it. Wow. Like basically made like a duct tape like cast.
Yeah. You can do anything with duct tape.
Yeah, you can.
There's an ad for
I know. And so I just limped my way. And I think too, my foot was always in the water, which was a really gross thing when the tape came off. But because my foot was always in the water, it stayed a little cooler. So it helped keep, between the tape and the cool water, it helped keep the swelling down. And then at night I would elevate. And I think I probably ate maybe 20 ibuprofen a day.
Wow.
But then, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just, when you hit those points in your life where you have to do something, you'll just do it. Yeah. No matter what that obstacle.
It really is. Truth. Right there. I worry about like that, these things like, being a caregiver, my mom is doing it by herself right now with my dad, which I just give her huge kudos for. But really that's what it comes down to, isn't it? You do what you have to.
Yeah.
So you went and you got you saved yourself.
But you were, asking about like prepping and stuff. I had my boots that I was going to wear, and I would just sort of walk, and I would kind of like walk like 5 miles a day in these boots just to kind of break them in. And they're also were heavier. And so, I should have done more training. And my pack was too heavy. But these are things that like backpackers are like, yeah, you figure it out. You just figure it out as you go. Like you're never gonna, like anything you do, you're never going to start something the first time and get it right, no matter what it is. So it's just educate yourself as much as possible and then go, and then figure it out. I mean, I was when I finally got into like some kind of civilization, I lived at like Billy Swamp Safari in the Everglades for like 5 days to let my ankle rest. And I'm giving things away. Anybody want my deodorant? Anybody want that? Like all of a sudden, and I mailed a little box home to myself. I was like, I don't need some of this stuff, and so I dropped like 10 pounds, like out of my pack, like just coming out of the Everglades, and now I feel like I'm, at least for Florida and maybe some of the Appalachian Trail, I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. But yeah, you just kind of figure it out,
Wow. So going back to your naked job interview.
Yeah.
So you take a little time off to go get yourself cleaned up and get on a proper call and sit in your sheet and you get the job. And
well, what I had to do is that like the next day they emailed me to say, we want to bring you on campus. So then you have to do like the on-campus visit, which lasts about 3 days. You do like 5 million interviews with like the chair, the faculty, the students, the dean for like 3 days. And then you also teach classes, which all the faculty watch.
How much teaching had you done before you went and did this?
So when I was 39, some issues started happening with my parents. So I had an MFA at the time. So I sent out some resumes to local schools in Jacksonville to say, hey, need somebody to come and do a Shakespeare workshop or a musical theater workshop or a stage combat workshop or whatever. And Flagler College in St. Augustine and Jacksonville University, which awesome because it was, I could walk to it in 15 minutes. It was a mile from my parents' house. Were interested in me doing workshops, but they also wanted to know if I would come teach adjunct. And I didn't even know what that was, honestly, at the time. I just thought professors were professors. I didn't know there were like grad student teachers and adjunct teachers and lecturers and whatever, And so I was like, well, sure, because I saw that as a great opportunity to kind of get the lay of the land. I still had my apartment in DC, and I was still working as an actor, sort of like commuting between DC and New York. And I subletted it out for a semester and went home and kind of got some things put into place. And I felt like very proactive and seeing kind of what the reality of my parents' situation was. But then that's when my niece got sick. And so I stayed, did more adjunct for the rest of the year. And then I got a full-time assistant professor gig at the University of Miami. It was a little farther away than I wanted to be, but I could still get home in half a day. So I taught at University of Miami because basically my goal was I have to make some money.
Right. Because I remember like when we were in grad school, we were all like squeaking by, right?
Squeaking, yeah.
And you squeaked by for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
So here you are and you're in your 40s and now it's time to start. How does one make money?
I was just like, how does one make money when you're not auditioning? Like, I don't understand this world.
Right.
But then I was down at University of Miami for 3 years on a visiting guest artist like contract. But, I was still the weekend, it was a 6-hour drive, 5 hours to St. Augustine, 6 hours to Jacksonville. And I would drive up almost every weekend and, be there with my family. And then after that, and this is when I was up at Connecticut Rep doing some stuff where I came and hung out with you guys for several summers. And then I ended up at Auburn in Alabama for a year. And then after that, that's when my dad passed away.
So you had a few years of progressing through and starting from doing adjunct to assistant and having like full-time teaching. So by the time you come to this tenure track opportunity, you're pretty seasoned by then.
Yeah. I'm still learning. You can't teach and not keep, learning, which is the fun part to me, actually. So, yeah, so the intention was to go home, help out my family, and then move back to either DC or New York and pick up, because, I've always been a character actress. And now that I was in my, late 30s, early 40s, I finally had grown into my type. I could finally start, legitimately in some serious theaters, play my type. And I had started establishing a relationship in DC with several theaters and was enjoying working there. And then, but my family just kept, lingering. You don't want them to die, but at the same time, it's not helpful to anybody. Like, they were suffering and staying too long at the party. And then I'm suffering, taking care of them.
And then you're feeling guilty. You're probably beating yourself up for even thinking about it, right?
Oh my God. That's the biggest, unsaid truth of every caregiver out there, is that you have those moments where you just go, please, dear God, let them die.
Yeah.
Because you're exhausted, but also you love them so much and you don't want to see them suffering, know? So you kind of go through that, and then, you feel guilty for it. But, at the same time, you're like, the fact that I'm still alive right now, I need to get bonus points. But anyway, so I didn't go back to DC or anything because of the lingering. And by that time, I had bought a car. And then I got the job, after the hike and everything, I got the job at FAU, and my mother died after my very first year of teaching at FAU. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm in a condo, like a nice one with a pool. And here's the biggest thing, a washer and a dryer. I was like, what is this new invention that they have now in this non-New York actor world? A washer and a dryer and a car? I mean, so you get seduced by, you get comfort. Soft, Yvonne. You just get soft.
It's right. I totally get you. Yes.
Yeah, you just get soft. But at the same time, you're like, do I want to do 8 shows a week? Right. I don't think I do. Right. So, and I'm, there are days when I wake up and go, how did I get here? What am I, you know what I mean? Like, how did this happen? Like, you sort of are like, I'm just going to do this for a hot minute to take care of my family. And then all of a sudden you blink. I've bought a house, just bought a new car house, last year.
Amazing. It just makes me so happy for you. I know where you came from and what you've been through. And you know what? You deserve to go soft a little bit. Damn it.
Yeah. And I still go back up to New York to visit and all that. But I'm loving, like right now I'm looking out and I'm seeing trees and palm trees and blue sky. And it's just,
and your place is so darn cute and beautiful.
And it's just, it's healing again, it's kind of going back to the healing thing, but,
yeah. And so then after your dad died, that was the big part of your trip. And then was the next time last year when you went out for a few weeks?
No, it's not the last time, because I did like a little over half of the trail the first time I went out when I sprained my ankle. And then this past time I did like 3 weeks. I need like another month. I need like 4 more weeks of hiking, and then I'll be done with the Florida Trail.
Gotcha. So you have more to do.
And so I want to, part of me thought about, well, let's just crank it out this December. But because last year, and it worked out great. I mean, I took advantage of COVID, people weren't going to come visit for the holidays and stuff like that. And so, but then I missed it, so like this year, I really missed having people to my house over the holidays. I missed putting up, my Christmas tree. I go get like a real one, and I've got all these ornaments that are in an odd way. Putting up the tree is totally connecting with my family, because these ornaments are like 4 generations of, ornaments that go on the tree. And, I just remember with every single ornament every year, my mother and I would have to talk about, where that ornament came from and how old it was, and blah, 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 blah. And, so yeah, it's just sort of like a way of kind of connecting with family again. And so I just was like, I know I'm going to finish the Florida Trail. This holiday season, I'm just going to stay home.
Yeah. That sounds
and
exciting. And now you've got, Waylon and Willie now too.
The boys. Yeah.
So these are kitty cats I'm talking about, by the way. So did you already have them when?
Yeah, they're 2 now.
Who'd they stay with, or who stid with them while you were out?
A colleague of mine who's become a friend. She and her husband live, I don't know, 15 minutes away.
Oh, wait a minute. I think we met him on the last call we were on or something. Didn't we? Didn't he come by, and we saw him? We were on a Zoom call together and he popped by. Is that the guy?
Oh yeah. No, that was my friend. I've got 2 friends named John.
Oh, okay.
That was John 1. John 2 and his wife Dawn live not far from me. And so they sort of camped out at my house while I was gone. And
now, wait a minute. I think you have 3 friends named John.
Oh,
and I'm just going to say,
don't tell him that
my
that
John, he
he
better not be John number 3. Oh, that is not going to go over well.
He's John number 1. John Flaherty is John number 1 for the record. And yeah, the other Johns are just peons, I tell you.
Oh my goodness. Lenny, it's amazing that your caregiver story just, wow.
Well, so many people, I mean, we all do it, like I said, they were amazing. I was honored to take care of amazing people. I mean, we all know, like, people older than us usually are going to go first, and then we take care of them. And that's just sort of the cycle of things. So yeah, it was not that I went through anything different. It was just earlier and compressed, right. I guess you would say.
Right. Yeah.
The good thing about it is that's what sparked the show that I'm working on. So
talk more about that. I'm so excited.
Well, I finally came up with a name for it. I've just been calling it Blue, but I feel like I'm going to call it Blubber, a rap in blue.
Oh, I love that.
And I play 3 characters. I play a baby blue whale, and an old man, and a middle-aged woman. And their stories are separate, but they're intertwined at the same time. There's intertwining themes, and it's funny too. I mean, there's a lot of humor in it, but it deals with communication, grief, a little bit of caregiving, but it's mainly about communication. And it kind of started several years ago. I was up in Toronto doing a movement workshop, and I took a break on a Saturday, and they had an exhibit at the Royal Ontario Museum. And it was this blue whale. Blue whales are the largest creatures on the planet. And they're hard to study because blue whales don't float. So if a blue whale dies, it sinks, which is one of the reasons why they were close to extinction, because they'd go out and do the whale, hunts, and they'd harpoon a blue whale but then it would sink. But anyway, so one had washed ashore, and it was this great opportunity for scientists to study this blue whale. So they had, like her skeleton up in this exhibit with these blue lights and all these, you could put on the earphones to listen to the blue whale call. It had a very like slowed down. It sounded very much like heartbeat.
Wow.
And I don't know. And I just was sort of standing there, and all of a sudden this just sort of like wash came over me, like this flood of emotion. And we know now, like the origins of the universe, we have a recording of that. We can hear and it sounds like like, if you're meditating, and then this pulse. And I was like, oh my gosh, this, and it's not a new idea, and it's not a new thought. It's just sort of, it's my take on this idea of how we're all connected by this heartbeat, this pulse.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, with blue whales, with their song, right, their pulse that they use to communicate, and heartbeat, heartbeat almost like prayer in a way, like your heart beats, but whale song is focused, right? So they're focused on communicating. So if your heart is beating and you're focused on communicating, maybe you can communicate with your family who are in other seas, So I don't know. So it's just sort of like, I know I just got all like,
deep.
Very groovy there and deep and everything. But that's kind of the idea, So yeah, but I'm excited.
I am so excited. So you've got a workshop production coming up of that, don't you?
Yeah. So October of 22 at Theater Lab in Boca Raton, Florida, we're going to be doing a production workshop.
So I just want to say I have a special appearance. If you, where'd he go? John.
Oh, is it John number one?
John.
John number one.
Where'd he go? I think he ran away because he realized I was recording, but I don't think he knows it's
Oh
you.
No. Well, it's so funny because your podcast is called Late Bloomer Living. And I sort of feel like a little bit of a fraud because I don't feel like I've bloomed yet.
Oh, you have.
No, but you know what I mean? Like,
right.
In terms
but from somebody, let's say I'm somebody, somebody who appreciates beauty. I have watched you bloom in different ways over and over through the years since we've known each other. And no, you're not done yet. So you don't feel maybe like you may not feel like you've arrived, but
yeah, it's weird because I feel like as a young adult, I bloomed. I had this like career, and then I stagnated in a way, even though I grew in terms of, wisdom, waist size, all of those things grew. But I sort of feel like I stagnated in a way during the caregiving phase. And then I'm in an academic phase right now, teaching. I sort of feel like I'm in a bud form, I guess you would say. Like the writing and creating my own material now is something that I feel like that's going to be my bloom. Like that's my next chapter.
Yes. And that's actually one of the reasons I'm so excited to be talking to you. First of all, the hiking, you're totally underplaying that. I'm just going to say, but that is a big deal. And it's funny. We all do this. Our thing can't be special because we did it. And
right.
How could that be special? Right. But there's also the writing. There's the writing. And you were talking about writing things way back when you guys were in grad school. Back then I think there was a pirate idea.
Oh my gosh. I was doing like a pirate show. I don't know what it was, but it was going to be amazing. But I just always like to write, I love to write humor, like humorous sort of essays and stuff like that. But then I enjoy it. And I'd like to do more with it. It's probably not going to make me any money, but that's not why you do things. I mean, you need to, be self-sustainable, but I think that's my next journey. Academia has been good to me. It's starting to lose a little bit of joy just because of how hard it's becoming. Demands on teachers, less money, using a business model, trying to crank kids out of school in just 4 years, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at a different transition, and I think it might be writing my own material and storytelling. I mean, whether it's in a one-woman show format, whether it's just in a writing format, whether it's in like a traditional storytelling format. I think that's going to be my next, unless of course I convince you and John to do the idea I said earlier, which is get in a caravan, drive around the country and do podcasts with people that we feel are the coolest people in America.
Oh my God. I love that. So that's further down the line. So it could be a yes and. That could be a yes and. I got to get my kids done with high school and off to college, and then I can look at that option.
I remember I called you. I was in the car. I was like, well, I was probably in my 5th hour of driving. I remember, and I called you and I was like, when do they graduate? I know Spencer's graduating. When does Brendan graduate? When are they out of the house? When can you leave?
I love the idea. Oh, I have big RV dreams.
No, but seriously.
I do.
What do you think, listeners? Did you listen to Yvonne doing a podcast of the coolest people in America?
With Lynn and John.
Basically, Yvonne would do the work, and John and I would walk around and decide what are the coolest people in America.
We would be a good team. That would be so damn much fun. I love it.
Yeah, we might have to have video though. Mm-hmm. A little bit.
Mm-hmm. I could do that.
I know everybody's doing a YouTube channel, but ours would be the best.
Yeah. I think that I really do think that the key to the Fountain of Youth is letting yourself be a beginner and having that idea of, well, I don't know where this is going, but let's check it out. Let's see where it goes,
Yeah. Well, your thing's called, was it late bloomer living? Sometimes I feel like I just have to follow the sun, like if I'm going to bloom, I got to follow the sun, and the sun's always in a different place and changes directions. And sometimes I just have to change directions in order to bloom,
I like that. Well,
maybe we should get nuts. I just like made that up. We should get bumper stickers or something.
I love it. Follow the sun.
Follow the sun. So
there's a song in there, isn't there?
I think it's just Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah. Just that little song.
Just that one.
Just that one. Oh my goodness, Lynn. This has been amazing. And you've got other projects that are coming up, and I love your, so anybody who wants to go find Lynn, you're going to go to her website, which is Lynn is McNutt.
Well, it's so funny because one of my grad students helped me set up that website. And, you're looking for a domain name. Oddly, McNutt was taken. How odd. Yeah. We're like, for sure, with a last name like McNutt, this will be a fake. And so she's the one that came up with Lynn is McNutt. And I was like, well, that fits. So
totally fits.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
LynnsMcNuts.com.
All right. I love you, honey. Thank you so much for doing this.
Love you too. You're welcome. It's been my pleasure.
Well, there you have it. As Lynn says, we are all likely to end up playing the role of caregiver at some point in our lives. What I love about her story is that she's turned what she learned during that time into a creative well and inspiration for a one-woman show. It just goes to show that we can always take our grief and hard times and turn them into something life-affirming and beautiful. And that is what I wish for you in the coming year, my friend. You know what else I wish for you? I hope and wish that you will take advantage of this time in your life that is just ripe with potential to start exploring your next chapter. Give yourself some time for self-reflection, daydreaming, and visualization of what might be possible for you as you age. And then do something about it. Get busy living. If you want to know more about Lynn, I'll have that information for you in the show notes. You can just go to latebloomerliving.com/podcast and click on the show notes for episode 78. And hey, I'm just going to come right out and ask for a Christmas present. Can you take a quick minute right now before you forget to rate the podcast and please write a review if you're listening in the Apple Podcast app? It really makes a difference for getting the podcast in front of new listeners, and I want as many people as possible to hear these stories. I'm ready to start a revolution, guys. Let's do it. Let's do it together. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a fantastic week and a happy new year. Stay safe and well. Talk soon.